Welcome back to Recipe to Revenue. Today we have a truly insightful guest, Sean Lenihan. He's the founder of the Honest Bison. Sean's journey into the food industry is unique, stemming from a career in brand marketing where he worked with some of the biggest names on the planet. He transitioned from marketing fancy cars and electronics to building a trusted brand dedicated to providing 100% grass-fed bison and other meats. The Honest Bison operates through both direct-to-consumer e-commerce and supplies high-quality ingredients to other CPG brands. We'll dive into the fascinating world of perishable e-commerce, the challenges and triumphs of direct-to-consumer sales, and his brand's deep commitment to regenerative agriculture and sustainability. Sean will also share his profound insights on the true value of food, the fight against greenwashing, and even the spiritual connection we have with what we eat. Get ready for a conversation that blends entrepreneurship, ethical sourcing, and a passion for making a positive impact through food. Welcome to Sean. Hey, Sean, so great to have you back today on Recipe to Revenue. Thank you for joining me.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so I am really excited for you to tell us your story today about the Honest Bison and all the interesting ups and downs and curves that you have taken with your business. But kind of let's start in the beginning, where I'd like to kind of set the tone of how you got into the food and beverage industry, which led to the Honest Bison.
Sure. I grew up in California. I went to school in Los Angeles. I started a career in marketing automotive, mostly in events and around branding. And so my career centered around helping brands build trust. And that typically was in an experiential environment. I had a ton of fun doing that. I got to work with some amazing brands, really had a passion for the connection that's able to be created in person, and worked with some awesome brands. Did that for a couple decades, and then some stars aligned and some things happened in my life, or life happened.
Yeah.
That made me, yes, that made me think of some, or at least have a different perspective. One, my wife and I welcomed twins into the world. That's an easy one to shift your perspective real fast.
Yes.
I had a couple friends, a mentor die too early of what we typically refer to as diseases of civilization. Could have done it differently.
Yeah.
And there was a shift in the marketplace where I was fortunate enough to work on a brand. It was a pitch for an agency. And this brand was in the natural food space, essentially delivering upon something that we all need. In this case, it was electrolyte drink. Drink was coconut water, and it was delivering better than the existing things like Gatorade. And so I hadn't ever been in a CPG brand, didn't work in restaurants, didn't work in grocery stores, didn't work in food service. Like none of that was in my past. It was all fun, awesome stuff that we really don't need. And through the stars lining up of, wow, I'm responsible for feeding 2 new humans and I can mess it up. And wow, food can be a very significant determining factor of the quality of life we have. And so my journey to, okay, let's figure out what's good for you. It became clear that food was essentially a little too hard for a consumer to figure out what was the best for you and your family. And so it very quickly, my career of connecting people and brands and experiences and emotions to ultimately what was leading to, oh, I want to buy this car. I want to buy this video game. Oh, I want to wear these pair of shoes. I got to work with superheroes, amazing creatives, super talented agencies, brands that really had lots of money and lots of creative and had excellent products. And that seemed to be missing in food of like, wait, where's a great brand that I can trust? Because so this is like 2010, 2011, 2012. You could go back and like what you thought was a great brand in food. Probably wouldn't think that today because of the consumer awareness. So I didn't own a bunch of land. I hadn't ever been in livestock, wasn't a chef, didn't know food service or CPGs, but I wanted to make an impact with food. And so the entrepreneurial mindset in me was like, well, you can't do something that's super easy and everybody has, right? Didn't want to do a commodity. I wanted it to be exceptional in taste, and experience, but also inherent naturally healthy. And meat had a lot of problems. It still has a lot of problems. And so as an entrepreneur, I said, okay, where are the trusted meat brands? And it wasn't just for human health, which I was approaching the opportunity from, but it was also animal welfare. There's some pretty bad feelings that you can get if you go to the wrong factory farm, and you'll lose your appetite pretty fast. So I started to, as I investigated more, researched more, and explored the opportunity, it became more and more compelling. So from human health to animal welfare, and then all the way down to, well, how do we raise these animals? And are the methods in which we raise animals making the soil more fertile, or are we extracting all the nutrients out of the soil? Which, of course, it's much more aware now. I wasn't aware in 2012 of the carbon cycle, or at least how we can help the carbon cycle. That's where plants can draw carbon into the soil, thereby solving another big problem
Yeah.
that our world faced. So that's where I landed in meat. I created a brand, and subsequently the dominoes, or essentially the forks in the road, probably a better analogy of, well, I've never sold to a grocery store before. That looks hard. Because we were in 2010, or 2010, 11, 12, grass fed was still a super little tiny niche.
Right.
Of awareness or even production. I
Maybe you
also,
would see it at like a farmer's market or
yeah,
something at that point
and
in
even though
time.
they weren't, that wasn't necessarily the biggest pitch. That
Yeah.
probably the biggest pitch was local.
Yeah.
But where I was living in Los Angeles, I knew local, there's way more feedlots close to Los Angeles than there are green pastures. So the opportunity, the other thing didn't have any connections to restaurants or food service or chefs. So not being aware of either of those worlds, but being very connected to consumers that were leading edge. We didn't call them influencers back then, but people were like, wait, I'm having a positive experience by eating this way. So if you think back to that time, there's food movement, CrossFit, paleo, whole food, clean eating. That was all the time that was taking off. Instagram was also taking off at the time. And so the ability for consumers to learn things of like, wait, I want to live better. How do I do it? Started to come in all different channels. And so as marketers, we saw this not just through events, but through social media, was that very quickly you could get some information, try it out for yourself, and get results. And so the food movement, having an active lifestyle, at least where I lived, which was Southern California, really, really took off. And so that provided us the opportunity to do this crazy idea of like, let's create a brand and let's put up a website, and people will put their credit cards on the website and we'll ship them frozen meat. And so that's what we did. In 2014, we started shipping frozen boxes of meat over the internet, and it slowly grew until it grew very quickly. So that's how it started, where I went from a brand marketer to an e-commerce professional, delivering some of the best food on earth to people that wanted it.
Well, I love how you've taken your past experience, and then, as marketers, right, we're always looking at what the underlying trends are and kind of where the market is going. I feel like that's kind of the responsibility of a marketer. And, you know, but you overlaid your own interests, what the future you wanted for your children and where you
Right.
thought everything was headed. How much of that was influenced, at the time by, I'm trying to remember back to that time period of, what was in the news, and like, were we starting at that point in time to talk about happy cows and those types of things?
Yeah, I don't know if I remember happy cows. I remember in college, which was in the 90s, like the PETA people having a table at the university I was at, and that was pretty alarming. It was also a little, I didn't really believe it because I came from rural California. I was like, I live near cows and that stuff doesn't happen. So I was like, maybe that's a fringe thing. But what was happening? So during that time, that was when Obamacare was the news cycle. Right. And the federal government was trying to push through some healthcare so more people could be healthy. And so that was a super giant debate then. And I picked up on, not that I was following politics or like in the trends of that, but keep in mind, like some people that were close to me died of diseases, diabetes and cancer and things like that. It's like, wait, this kind of shouldn't happen. Like, what is it? Like,
Yeah.
is it in the air? Is it in the water? Is it in the food? Where is it?
Right. Yeah.
Because too many people. So one thing that they said in that national debate was that if this is what blew me away, because it was the cost, right? Can the federal government pay for everybody to have healthcare and live healthier? And a stat came out and it's like, if everybody in the United States, 300 million something people that needed to lose 10 pounds, did lose 10 pounds, the federal government, even without the sponsored healthcare, the federal government would save $1 trillion.
Oh, wow.
Like, really?
Yeah.
That's it? It's that easy? Like 10 pounds. 10 pounds is achievable for everybody. People that need to do 50, 60, holy smokes, you have a tall mountain.
Yeah.
So that's where I thought, well, parents want to feed their kids, right? Right? You want to keep your friends for a long time, long, healthy lives. And we have essentially a national healthcare crisis where the system that is built isn't necessarily serving the people of the country, right? Whether they're dying of cancer or they, gosh darn, you just got to lose 10 pounds and you'll add 10 years back to your life. Yo.
Yeah.
So,
Incredible.
so that's where I was like, wait, this food movement thing is real. And so again, I was in a marketing profession that was becoming commoditized even back then. If all the marketers are out there like freaking out, like, yeah, I might lose my gig.
Yeah.
Even back then, it was happening in a different degree where agency models wanted to hire young people that were far cheaper than at the time I was 40 something. I could see like, where is the future opportunity? Like if I were to build a company that would last 100 years, it should be something that people need and that people want. Up to my career at that point, I was marketing things that people didn't need, but they definitely wanted it. So
so
that's
it's such a different model.
It's a different model, right?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to drive a sexy car? Who doesn't want to play a super fun video game? So I saw the opportunity of like, well, all right, I've gotten to do a lot of fun things, made a lot of great money, worked with some very, very talented people. And so it's like, well, can you make a dent in the world? Can you make the world a little bit better place for the people that you love, right? And you're responsible for? And it was like, okay. And so that was where, well, there's healthy meat. Well, okay, what makes it healthy? Yeah. Well, one format is grass-fed. Okay, what's so big deal about the grass-fed? You go into the science of it. I'm like, that's interesting. The next fork in the road, I went to a class, and the headline of the class was like, learn how to ranch bison with minimal inputs and minimal costs. And I thought, okay, I know how to market and sell an exceptional product. In this case, I was drawing on all the brands and products that I've worked with. Coconut water was the thing that was fresh in my experience when they're like, hey, coconut water is not that delicious, but it's super good for you. Okay, red meat is delicious for most people. And here was a way in which red meat, which had been vilified, still to this day, some still do vilify it. Whereas like nobody knew that could be a source of healing and a source of health and better lifestyle choices. So that was like, okay, as the marketer, there's a product now. So, okay, who's doing awesome? Where would I get awesome bison?
Right. Yeah. So then now tell us, so you go from California and you start looking north, and how did you make the transition up there to, there's this bison, I should.
Yeah. So the bison, so the business model, like you spend 2 years figuring out what it is, still doing my day job.
Okay.
And then we figure out like, all right, I found a rancher, I found a butcher, I found a frozen fulfillment. They would put the FedEx label on it and send it, find a website, set up the e-commerce, all of which was way harder than it should have been.
Yeah.
It's way easier now on some of that stuff. So we got it set up. I kept my day job and then just slowly kept building and did the brand things. Was part of some really great accelerators that were taking leading companies and providing resources and networking and so forth. We just like slowly from 2014 to 2016, it was a very slow building the brand more than customers, but we were growing. We were like break even profitable for the first few years, but there were also like there wasn't any staff. Like everybody's subcontractor, 1099, and I didn't draw anything out of it. So Fast forward, we get to 2018, things are moving for the Honest Bison, and I didn't need to be in Los Angeles anymore. So I took the opportunity to move my family, finish raising kids up to Washington State. And so that's where I live and work now. And the pandemic, of course, was a major inflection point where sales went X. Everybody wants groceries on their doorstep now. And we were fortunate enough to have enough inventory, and away we went. So that's where we took a big jump, and then have been able to combine the two big trends of people want and need to eat better, but where do I get it? Right? Do we go to Whole Foods? Do you go to New Seasons? Do you go to wherever? Do you find it? Right? There's still some gatekeepers there at the grocery level. That wasn't something I wanted to do, so I stuck with the e-commerce. And then essentially the next thing is like, well, in the interest of getting transparency in where you source your food, trusting, which, right, I want to get the specification, how it was raised, how it tastes, et cetera, et cetera. How do I get it? I get it online. Okay, online, again, all these channels start to add to the transparency of everything, all the things that are good in transparency, and of course, all the things that are bad. And so the macro trends of, hey, I want to eat better, live better, but also where do I get it and who do I trust? Set us up to where the brand could very quickly build that trust. And so
all these things
that's
are
how we got.
coming together.
Yeah.
In that moment of the pandemic when you're like, okay, people are all home, they can't go or don't want to go out grocery shopping. Did you see a huge organic lift in traffic, or did you put out, you're like, we have to advertise and get in front of people, right?
I wasn't buying that many ads at the time. We were experimenting with it. I didn't have a mountain of cash. I still don't have a mountain of cash. So we were experimenting with which ads work. And we were occasionally doing a Facebook, maybe not even Instagram. We were doing some Google ads, but no, we had decent SEO. So it was, I would say, all organic. One thing that we did see is, and I won't ever forget this day, is I was traveling, I was doing an experiential job, and my phone's blowing up with orders. And like, okay, something's happening. And over like 3 days, we saw essentially our competitors or other providers just started to jacking prices to crazy amounts. There was significant price gouging going on.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
We harvest annually. And so in March 2020, our freezers were full. Like all our cash was in the freezers. Like we couldn't have bought ads because we didn't have any money. So all the money was in the freezer, right? So for the food entrepreneurs, like, well, totally know, like, oh yeah, I know where my cash is. It's in inventory. So the organic, everybody was looking to buy. People were price gouging. And we thought, you know what? We're going to take the high road. People need to eat, and they want to eat. They want to eat really, really well for multiple reasons. One, they want to get something because maybe the grocery store doesn't have everything that they want. All of a sudden, those people who may have thought of, yeah, maybe I should eat better to have a better immune system. Now they're like, oh, no. I need an immune system. Yeah, you do. Right? So like a spike in awareness of, whoa, here we go. But also people like, hey, I need to trust what I'm getting. Do I trust a restaurant? Like restaurants didn't even get a chance. Do I trust a grocery store? Do I trust the farmer? Do I trust the brand?
And that sentiment is just, I think, exploded recently, especially just people are becoming more aware, which is great. But I think it puts the CPG world in an interesting spot. And I think it's really a good time for people to shine that are in this space of really trying to uphold certain values and quality.
CPGs that have values around health and transparency, integrity, like, yep, green light, go. Ones that don't, that are bullshitting it, like there's numerous case studies of brands that were saying they were doing it. Some even that started out doing it. You can look up Bel Campo meat comes to mind. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but I don't have any inside information other than I believe that they did start out correctly, but during the pandemic, they ran out of meat and somebody didn't want to sell out. We ultimately did start to run out because we ran out before we got to the next seasonality, the next fall to start harvesting again. So we had to sell other species. We added beef. We added some pastured pork at the time.
And how did that do? Was that a good turn of events for you to add other meat to it, or?
I would say it was necessary. Like we got stuck with a bunch of inventory. It was hard to add things that fast to the website. They were great products. They were like, we had grass-fed beef, really great pressed pork. But yeah, that like my little train wreck came later in the year.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So I want to hear, so in the e-commerce space, selling a shelf-ready product is great. Selling something that is perishable is a whole different ballgame.
holy smokes, I had no idea what I was signing up for.
Yeah.
In fact, just yesterday, I met with another fulfillment company to talk about how they're doing things better than others in the space, because like it's one of the most critical parts, right? So the animal has to do their job, the rancher has to do their job, right? Mother Nature, she has to do her job and make sure that there's green pastures and there's grass growing. And then the processor has to do their job. And then the meat cutter, the butcher has to do their job. And then we have it in cases, and we have all this wonderful product that's healthy for you, it's ethically raised, everything. We're still not there yet. We have to put it in a warehouse that's close enough to where the people that want to buy it, where we can afford to pay a person to go into a freezer and pick out exactly the right things. Sometimes they don't pick the right things, and they put it in a box, and then they have to put the right label on the box, and then they have to hand it to another person, and that person drives a truck, and then they take it to a warehouse, and then there's another person, and then there's like a bunch of people that sort it, and then they either put it on a big truck or a plane, goes to another place, and more people touch it, and then another person ultimately puts it on a truck and has to get it out of there. That part from when you have a pallet of ground bison that leaves the processor, there's still so much more work and so much more cost. So Amazon ruined it for everybody in that they give away shipping. It's not free.
No,
It's
not
never
at
free.
all.
Somebody's paying for it. Somebody's
And
paying
more
for
and
it.
more expensive every
Yep.
time it goes to the post office.
Right. So when you need to have something that's frozen and it needs to stay frozen, there's only a couple different ways to do it. One of the best, it's not the best. One of the most effective ways to get a frozen thing from A to B through a carrier like FedEx and UPS is to put it in a styrofoam box. Well, that's kind of contrary to like, wait, your animals did all this regenerative stuff, they're sequestering carbon, and like the water cycle is improving, but we're going to put something that has like 1,000-year half-life in a landfill? Okay, so we can't use styrofoam boxes. So we use the eco liners, which is a recycled fiber. It's great, it's recyclable, but it doesn't have the R value, to use some jargon. And R value just means how well it can hold the cold in. So you're packing some frozen things with dry ice in a box. And so you have pieces of meat that are hard as a rock, and you have dry ice that's hard as a rock. And then you shake it up for 48 hours.
Yeah.
And hopefully it gets to a place, because the dry ice will be gone, where it's not 120 degrees on somebody's doorstep.
Yeah.
So those are the challenges,
you get
right?
an order from like Arizona and you're just like,
So
thank you for the order. I just hope that there's no delays in shipping.
Yep. Yes, it happens more. Las Vegas, Arizona, Texas, Florida. We know that like that's where the defrosts are going to happen. Good news in the space, they're getting really sophisticated now on some of the platforms. Not everybody. In fact, most shippers probably don't have this yet, to where the weather reports are connected through an API into the shipping, and it says, oh, you're in Phoenix on July 4th. No, we're not going to ship it yet. Or you double you put 20 pounds of dry ice in it.
Yeah.
And you ship it overnight. Now, typically 10 pounds will last 2 days. In that case, I need 20 pounds to last a day. Then my odds, right, are up. So, but 20 pounds of dry ice, that's going to be 10,
heavier.
$12, right? You got a box that's right. The whole thing is going to be 10. You got to ship it. If it gets overnight, it could be $75 air freight. So that's the puzzle then. And a lot of people learn this, a lot of ranchers who lost their restaurant clients or the grocery store clients, like, oh, we'll just put up a website and ship it to people. Like, wow, it's not so easy.
Are you ready?
Yeah. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
So perishable shipping, I would say, is probably the second hardest thing. The only thing that I can think of harder is like human organs from hospital to hospital. That's a In fact, maybe that's easier because it's like, just have a blank check. It's like, it doesn't matter. Put it on a helicopter. I don't care.
Right.
This is like,
helicopter
no,
that out.
yeah, it's probably easier. Because in this case, like, I need it to be $15, not $75. And I pay UPS for both. I just need most of them to be $15 to $18. So like that's the challenge with perishable shipping. And so for me, it was important to have a high value product that the brand, because my experience was from high value premium luxury brands, that price was not an issue. So knowing that if the product stands up to, like, can be supported by a premium brand, like it always delivers, then hopefully we can build enough margin into a product that traditionally doesn't have that big of a margin. Factory farm meat does not have big margin. Like fast food is cheap for a reason. It's because it's a factory farm proteins. So we weren't ever going to play in that game. And so hopefully we had enough margin to be able to figure out perishable shipping. 12 years later, we're still trying to figure it out.
Still figuring it out.
Yep, still figuring it out.
Yeah, with a lot more experience under your belt to know what works and doesn't work. And
yes, tuition. I like to call it tuition.
Yeah,
Lots of tuition.
I look at every day as the continuation of an MBA program that I guess I signed up for.
Yes, you didn't pay a school. You're just paying some mistakes. Here we go.
Sweat, tears, time, all that. So I think in terms of people, it's a hard pill to swallow to some degree that food should cost more. But I think as we begin to value what's in the food and its effects on us, I'm hoping that we'll continue to see a shift in our society, that people will maybe change the pyramid of which we spend our money on, right? Like decrease luxury goods and entertainment, invest more in high quality foods, even if it does cost $50 to ship it to get it.
I think that shift, I'm so glad you brought that up. Like that shift is already happening. I have customers who spend several $1,000s a year just with me. I'm just one part of their freezer and part of their plate. So people have already, I was about to say, started, like essentially they've come around full circle, not full circle in necessarily something they've done in their life, but something that humans have evolved, right? And maybe we've culturally forgot some of it, but food is your medicine.
Yeah.
So if you're taking the lens of, and there's like funny, catchy phrases. There's like, you can pay your farmer now, or you can pay your doctor later. Little sayings like that. It's like, oh, if you really think about that, it's like, well, probably. And if you get enough decades under you and enough visits to your annual physical and the blood test, you're like, oh man, maybe we're seeing this happen. We're starting to see trends. And then if you're fortunate enough to get those insights, education, key learnings, whatever happens in your world, the journey you're on, towards like, wow, what I eat, what I consume, how I have my lifestyle will determine, right, the quality of it later. And so like learning how to cook, learning how to find the most nutritious foods, learning how to garden, learning how to hunt. You don't have to do all those things, but holy smokes, you do need to understand the consequences of, oh, I'm going to go into this convenience store and I'm just going to get something that tastes good on my tongue and isn't necessarily nourishing to your gut and to your muscles and to your heart and to your lungs and to your brain. So people I have seen, because they buy from me and they buy from others that are doing an exceptional job, that they're making that investment. I've made that choice too. I'd rather not take drugs. Not that I'm not against Western medicine. It's just more of like, oftentimes they come up with something that's really great, but then you got to read the, I'm just giving the word, the other symptoms.
The side effects.
Yeah, side effects. Yes, thank you. So side effects, like, oh, but I don't want the side effect. Like that's a bummer.
Like, may result in death. You're like, well, here we are. Where are we going to even out on this journey here if we're taking this?
Right. So that's the part is the investment. Cheap food is a trap, and it's a nasty trap. It's a one that's filled with sickness, both physically and mentally. And so that's the tragedy. And it's okay that bums me out, right? That was part of the motivation why I wanted to do something better. But it's also the like, oh, how lucky are we that we know that there is a better way and that we can live better if we avoid this and choose that, right? I was watching something the other day. It was a period piece around World War II. It was on Netflix. And they were smoking. And it's like everything was like, right.
Yeah.
In the 40s and 50s, smoking, they didn't know.
Yeah, it was just the norm. I know.
They just didn't know.
Which I think I am at least happy about in our day and age of like, at least I feel like we have more awareness about things and like, okay, that could be an easy one for some people, right? Like, okay, I'm not going to smoke.
Right.
I'm going to minimally drink alcohol or not at all. And now what do I need to do? Okay, now I need to find healthy sources of food. I feel is like the next like step. And then of course, exercise.
Right.
But, then I look at like my kids and I see like they go to school and like the external sources, right? It's like I can kind of control what's in my household, but
Right.
they decide they're going to order, lunch from school that day without telling me, like, well, what did you eat? And it's always macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets, without a doubt. Like, oh God, this battle just comes from every angle.
It really does. Like I had this experience just the other day. Keep in mind, so 2010, my kids are 2. And so like, this is where the awareness is like, this is my world is going through a paradigm shift. And like, okay,
Yeah.
I educate myself like, okay. And I read, It Starts With Food, which was essentially the book that started Whole30. That made a big impact because I tried it and like, wow, this is great.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, this is where I'm going to raise my kids. And we did.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are 17 now. I think this is true still. I don't know. I have to check with them. I don't think they've ever been to McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
So my son, he's going to go out with his buds last week. Just a little more context. I grew up in Central California, lived in Los Angeles. My wife's from Los Angeles. She's Mexican-American. And if you live in Los Angeles, you know good Mexican food.
Great Mexican food.
Yes, awesome. Right. So my son says, I want to go out with my buddies. Like, oh, where are you going? He's like, we're going to Taco Bell. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Now, like I'm past, because he's 17, I'm way past like, no, you're not going to do that. And so it's like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, that's just where they're going. Have you ever had it before? No. I said, no, we love doing like taco bar and all that stuff. Like really awesome. Everything.
Good times.
I was like, dude, you're probably not going to like it.
No, you're going to be very disappointed.
Like,
I have to tell you.
It's not Mexican food.
No.
It's like, I said, you should try it, but you're probably not going to like it. He comes back. He's like, I don't know how they make it so cheap. And that wasn't Mexican food. Like, no, it's not. So it's like, I was glad that he got to do it.
Yeah.
Like basically like I've done all I can. Right. So it's like, okay, go ahead. Now you can try it.
Yeah. And to be honest, thank you for bringing that story up because now thinking back, that is my first memory of food quality. Hearing a story, I think I was maybe in college, Taco Bell serves grade D meat. I don't even know if that is true. I don't know where that story came from, but that is my first cognitive connection between food quality and like a place. So
yeah.
How funny.
So like that, those are the things like I think, what did I say? I thought I started to pick up on a trend where some of these places, like I was maybe on my Google News feed, like some of the fast food places are closing down.
Yes,
like parts of
I've been
chains.
seeing a lot of,
like I don't know if it's like a burger
that,
chain or something like.
Yeah.
But anyway, the headline was like such and such fast food restaurant shuts down whatever 30 stores, blah blah blah.
Right.
So that could be a lot of things, but
Mhm.
it's not because it's too expensive. It's because people are just like, no, I'm going to have less of that in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a lot to think about in your day-to-day lives, but I think just the impact can be so positive if you start to make some changes, if you're kind of earlier in the process. So I want to ask you and kind of shift the conversation to kind of even going deeper. We had talked a little bit about some of the spiritual angle of food. And you have some interesting perspectives on that.
Yeah. So, well, I think this conversation, like we've started at a spot, like my journey, where I'd started a spot is like, hey, I want to have a healthier life and I want my kids to have a healthier life.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that's the beginning, right, square, then like the next logical thing led to, okay, well, where does it come from? What's the science? Why is this supposed to be healthy? Who's lying? Who's not? And so throughout this process of us trying to find the right ranchers to do it the right way, to where the product always could stand alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
The product was going to be great whether the Honest Bison brand existed or not. And in fact, it does, right? But humans evolved around bison. Bison were here before. Bison will probably be here after humans. Just like coconut water. Coconut, right? Humans evolved around coconut water. So the aspect of like then healing yourself or being able to heal the ones you love with super nutritious foods starts to go even beyond the science of, well, you eliminate this fats and you eliminate these sugars and you got these exceptional proteins and these minerals, but we're doing a way better job than the mineral deficiency that you had. And so the food is a medicine, but also then so that's the science of inside the human, but then there's the science of the fertility of the soil and the connectedness of, okay, Mother Nature just got to have the weather and the rain and the animals need to work. And so you have this connectedness of not just the human and the food and the animal and the soil or the grass. It's not just those 5 things. It's everything. And so when you talk about everything, then you could shift to or add like, well, how does it make me feel? And I did experience, like, for a long time, up until the pandemic, my cell phone number was the helpline on my website.
Yeah.
So I got to talk to people that needed healthy meat. They needed iron, they needed protein, they needed a lean fat content. They couldn't eat essentially domesticated animals. They couldn't eat pork, couldn't eat beef, couldn't eat chicken. These are people like had maybe some sort of autoimmune, like, hey, I really need this. It's the only thing that I can stay nourished. And so I had a lot of those conversations, and you start to then see the importance of how and why we have a certain standards that can deliver on that, whereas other standards or lack of standards don't deliver. You start to learn more about, okay, where did this animal come from? What's humans' relationship with it? Go down the path of indigenous peoples to North America and the approach, mindset, relationship they have with bison. They view it as their relative. It essentially not only nourished them physically, but was a cornerstone of their food system and their economy. And so they essentially looked at it as relatives. And so their relationship is one of relative, but also spiritually. They have stories of how the bison came to them. And so the Native Americans have a spiritual relationship with bison and many of the other animals that nourish them. I was also contacted by a Muslim who was a meat aficionado. His dad was a butcher. And so he was looking for exceptional quality meat that was halal. So I learned about how Muslims use halal to make sure that they're spiritually connected. And essentially, for those of us who didn't know, halal is essentially a spiritual ingredient where a prayer is said at the time of death of the animal. That is essentially, thank you, higher source, God, Allah, thank you for giving your life to nourish me and my family. And so I'm pretty sure kosher is the same in the sense, in the spirit of the thing, that it's a spiritual ingredient. We're thanking the creator for this animal giving its life. So there's those 3 examples, but I think even more people, and you touched on a little earlier, is people are trying to get closer to their food and understand this means way more than just satisfying the calorie deficit that my body says it needs. Bison can taste exceptional, but there's also things that may not taste that great. A kale, in my opinion, doesn't taste that great, but it's probably good for me. So, right? So something that nourishes you and the way it then makes you feel in your gut, in your heart, in your head, in your spirit, like what emotions and what does your spirit say? Does your spirit say, yes, I feel good about what I just consumed? Did it nourish me spiritually? And so there's that connection that I think more and more people are having and are starting to understand because they're trying it. They're educating themselves. And again, this isn't new.
Yeah,
This is
is
not
very
new
old.
stuff. Yes, like I
Very,
didn't
very
invent
old.
this. No CPG invented this stuff. None of it. It's all that's a little too much. But like to me, that's.
But when you think of just the chaos our world is in right now, I think people do want to find balance and peace where they can, and where else but the food that you eat multiple times a day is a great place to start in that
Right.
journey, because that's probably one of the things you have more control over when you're buying from good sources, is what you're putting into your body. You can't control the news. You can't control what
Right.
information's being fed to you through
But you also
TikTok
can't
unless you
control,
turn it off.
like the economic forces that create a factory farm.
Mhm.
Right? If anybody goes to a feedlot where they have cows that are standing in their feces, being pumped with hormones to grow them to be heavier, farmer gets paid on the weight, and they're giving antibiotics to keep them alive, not
Yeah.
healthy, alive. Right? So all of a sudden, guess what? That beef burger or steak is not going to taste that good.
Right.
So what's that energy? Like, so, okay, that the energy from that is like, hey, that doesn't really sit well with me. Like, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, right, it starts people on their own journey of like, well, I don't trust that. What
Hmm.
can I trust? Okay.
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
to ask more questions.
Yeah, I think that is, I hope everybody listening just kind of sits with that and thinks about it some more, and share your comments if this is something that you have been pursuing and looking into, or maybe even already doing in your lives. I would love to hear from people where they are in this journey.
It's fascinating stuff. Like, again, I think there's these generational gaps where we aren't indigenous tribes hunting and gathering, right? The
Yeah,
hunter
yeah,
gatherers probably had a little more connection of like, well,
yeah,
you're going to have to take that animal's life if you want to eat.
right.
Okay.
Yes, people are counting on you back
Right.
home.
Right. So that's a different thing. Whereas like, well, I'll just go to the grocery store, or
Hmm.
I'll just do Instacart, right? You
Exactly.
can get disconnected. So
Yeah.
anyway, like this is it's fascinating because there are more and more ways to be disconnected now. At the same time, people are craving and finding the ways to get more connected.
Yeah. No, that's a great point too. Because in your business model, like you're making it so easy for people to have access to this. So to bring your point back of, you were the one answering the phone for so many years and talking
Yeah.
directly to people. So just quickly, what is your thoughts on, like, how do you as a brand keep that personal connection?
Well, the website and the like paying, we have great customer service. We disproportionately pay more to make sure that people can call us and they can ask questions. They ask questions, do
Hmm.
they have vaccines? How were they handled? What did they eat? All of those questions, we try our best to make ourselves available quickly to do that, because we are in
Hmm.
that we know like whatever question they're asking, it's gonna be really, really important for their health, for their journey, and like how they want to live their lifestyle. So it's like for us, it's a privilege to be able to do that. It's expensive. It makes the meat expensive. So like it's a what's the word I'm looking for? It's a foundational cornerstone of our brand. Was that we want our need to be a trusted brand more than anything else. So how do you build trust? Well, one way, not after you've got the standards, after you have the transparency and so forth, is you got to be
Yep.
able to answer those questions and be accessible. So there's
Absolutely.
are some websites out there that still have my cell phone, and once in a while somebody will go like, "Hey, is
You
this the
really
Honest
want to
Bison?"
hunt it down,
Yeah,
you can
like,
find
okay,
it.
yeah, no, it's fine. But it's also great. I just connected with a customer the other day. He had problems with shipping. UPS didn't get it to him in time.
Hmm.
We had a 20-minute conversation, and it's probably customer for life. And I got
Yeah,
to like, hey, keep my number. You can text me.
I love
So
that.
yeah,
And I'm sure he does too.
yes.
Sean, I could literally sit here continuing this conversation forever, but I want to make sure we hit our last question for you today, and then I'm sure you have lots to get back to. So, what do you think has been your recipe to revenue for the Honest Bison?
Okay. I in my beginning of my career, I had success selling things. Premium experience. I was really lucky. So I always and those things delivered. I
Hmm.
was very fortunate. I didn't ever have to sell something that didn't deliver or underdeliver. So what I knew and so I started this business in my early 40s. I knew that if whatever I was going to deliver, because I was moving away from services,
Hmm.
whatever product I was going to deliver had to have some standards, because I wasn't the one. I'm not the bison. I'm not the rancher. I'm not the
Yep.
pastures. It had to have standards that could be replicable and be maintained with integrity, right? We weren't going
Yeah.
to break the rules. And we didn't have an incentive to break the rules.
Hmm.
It was, here's all the upside. And the incentive was like, don't do it that way because then your brand won't deliver. So the recipe was finding a product that was close to, how's the word I'm looking for? Indestructible, but in a way could stand on its own, right? If it was maintained with certain standards, right? The product had integrity is probably the best way to put it. And then use all the tools in a marketer's toolbox to build trust. So if you have that, if you have a product integrity, and then you can build trust, you have there's your value equation.
Yeah.
Now, how you get it there, I'm still figuring that out. But like, so, right, the logistics is a real thing, right? There are
evolving process.
Yeah, so there are superheroes in logistics. I'm looking to work with them. But that has been how I went from zero experience in food to having a multi-million-dollar company. So it's like building trust. That's one word.
Thank you, Sean. That was an amazing answer. And thank you so much for your time today and your insights into everything.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it. Tell us just last thing, where can people find you, the website?
TheHonestBison.com. You'll see our ads on Google and Facebook and Meta. We don't have a super active presence there, but our customers post stuff. But the best way to get a hold of us is on our website. We have a number, we have text, and we have contacts. So we are accessible
include the link
on all those
down
ways.
below. Yeah, in the description and on our blog, you can find the link to go visit them. And I know we'll be placing an order for my family. So thank you, Sean.
You so much.
Appreciate it. Have a great day.
Okay, take care.
Thanks for listening to Recipe to Revenue. If you're building in the food, beverage, or hospitality space, you're in the right room. Subscribe for more founder stories and real-world growth strategies. And if this episode helped, share it with a friend and leave a review. It's how this show grows. For tools, templates, and ways to work together, visit recipe2revenue.co. I'm Leah Messina. Until next time, keep cooking up the next revenue stream.